Imagine you run a company making, let's say, $5 million a year
Yeah.
in pure profit. Like you have zero debt. You have this stellar reputation in your industry, an incredibly loyal customer base, and you've put 25 years of literal blood, sweat, and tears into building this machine from the ground up.
It's the absolute dream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you sit down with the private equity firm because, well, you're finally ready to sell, retire, maybe cash in.
Mm-hmm.
And they spend 2 weeks looking at your books, examining your operations, and then they sit back down across the table and tell you that your company is, it's basically worthless.
Oh, man. Which is just a brutal reality check.
It's a nightmare. But today, in this deep dive, we are looking at why this exact nightmare happens to brilliant, highly successful founders every single day.
Yeah, because it really shatters this universally held assumption in the business world, This idea that if you just grind it out and generate top-line revenue, you automatically create a highly valuable asset. I mean, the great American business dream basically treats profit and sweat equity as like a guaranteed premium payday.
Just put in the hours and you'll get the big check.
Exactly. But when you step into the arena of sophisticated mergers and acquisitions, M&A, the rules change entirely.
And for you listening right now, whether you are running a business, maybe managing a department, or honestly just fascinated by the hidden mechanics of how massive corporate valuations are actually calculated,
Yeah.
this deep dive is going to fundamentally rewire how you think about success. We're drawing on this incredibly sharp framework developed by John F. Hendershot at Black Lake Advisory.
It's a great framework.
It really is. It maps out the transition from a company that simply generates cash to what they call an investor-grade company.
Right, because if you boil down all the, complex financial models and risk assessments, sophisticated buyers only care about one thing.
Which is,
Killing uncertainty.
wow, killing uncertainty.
Yeah. Whether they are private equity groups, strategic acquisition firms, or major commercial lenders, they are absolutely terrified of unquantifiable risk.
I mean, that makes sense. They're investing millions.
Exactly. So if a business relies heavily on the founder to function, that is a massive, glaring uncertainty.
Okay, let's unpack this valuation disconnect.
Yeah.
Because it feels almost paradoxical.
It does.
You have an owner who looks at their business and says, look at my profitability. Look at my 20-year track record. Look at how hard I work to make sure every client is happy.
Yeah, to them, that personal involvement is the ultimate proof of quality.
Right. I care the most, so my business is the best.
But the buyer, the owner is speaking the language of past performance and personal effort. But the buyer across the table is speaking the language of future certainty and structural independence.
Future certainty.
Yes. A buyer looks for 4 very specific traits: predictability, transferability, repeatability, and scalability.
Okay. Predict, transfer, repeat, scale.
Exactly. They have this single question just looping in their head during the entire negotiation.
Which is?
Can this business operate without the person sitting across from me?
Wow. And if the answer is no?
The valuation tanks, even if the margins are incredible.
I was trying to think of a way to visualize this structural gap, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like a home's power supply.
Okay, I'm listening.
When a founder starts a business, they are essentially a portable gas generator just roaring in the backyard.
Oh, that's good.
Right. They are loud, they require constant refueling, they need constant maintenance, but, they keep the lights on through sheer force.
Yeah, and the founder's super proud of being that generator.
Exactly. But a private equity buyer doesn't want to buy a loud, high-maintenance generator.
No, not at all.
They want to buy a house that is silently plugged into the municipal electrical grid.
Yes.
They want the power to just exist in the background reliably no matter who is living in the house.
That captures the structural transition perfectly. Because from a buyer's cold, mathematical risk assessment perspective,
Yeah.
a company running on a portable generator isn't an enterprise. It's a highly leveraged job masquerading as a company.
A highly leveraged job masquerading as a company. Ouch.
Right. But think about the emotional state of a founder in that scenario.
Right, they've poured their soul into this.
They've remortgaged their house to make payroll in the early days. They know the names of every client's children.
Yeah, they know exactly which piece of machinery on the warehouse floor needs a physical kick to start on cold mornings.
Exactly. To the founder, this intimate knowledge is a badge of honor.
They sit down at the negotiating table feeling like an absolute titan, assuming the buyer will be in awe of how they personally handle every major vendor dispute.
And while the founder is proudly listing all these personal interventions, the buyer is just quietly checking boxes on a risk matrix.
Thinking, this is a disaster waiting to happen.
Precisely, because the buyer is a steward of other people's capital. They aren't emotional.
Right.
They see a fragile ecosystem that basically collapses the moment the founder's cell phone is turned off.
So both parties are looking at the exact same operation and coming to completely opposite conclusions.
Yeah. The founder sees a well-oiled machine, but the buyer sees an unverified, undocumented web of dependencies.
But there's a paradox here, isn't there?
What do you mean?
Well, if these founders are smart enough to build multi-million-dollar empires,
Yeah.
why do they build systems that sophisticated buyers view as completely fragile? Like, it seems completely irrational.
It does seem irrational until you look at how a business actually grows in its first few years.
Right, the evolution of it.
Exactly. It comes down to the environment in which the business was born.
Because companies aren't typically designed in a laboratory with a 10-year exit strategy meticulously plotted out.
No, they evolve reactively. I mean, in the startup phase, the founder is basically playing every instrument in the orchestra.
Oh, for sure. If a server goes down, they fix it.
If a client threatens to leave, they drive across town to save the account.
Right, because if they don't do that, the company dies.
Exactly.
You don't sit around drafting a 50-page standard operating procedure for client retention when you are just trying to figure out how to make next Friday's payroll.
You don't have the luxury of time.
You have to move fast. But, and here's the pushback, right?
Okay.
That raises an interesting friction point. The exact same scrappiness, hustle, and agility that keeps a company alive in year 1 is exactly what makes it unsellable in year 20.
What's fascinating here is that you're totally right. The skills required to start a business are actively hostile to the skills required to scale and sell a business.
Actively hostile.
Yeah, and that is a brutal realization for a lot of entrepreneurs.
I bet.
The survival phase demands that the founder acts as the central hub of a wheel. Every single spoke, sales, operations, human resources connects directly back to them.
Right.
But to achieve investor-grade status, you have to transition from being the hub of the wheel to being the architect of the wheel.
You have to step outside the machine.
Exactly. You have to design it, not just spin it.
But instead, people get trapped in that survival mindset for decades.
Decades. Yeah.
And that creates a massive reliance on what the Black Lake Advisory Framework calls tribal knowledge.
No, tribal knowledge. It is the silent killer of enterprise value.
The silent killer.
Truly, it's the processes and systems that develop purely through habit and repetition rather than intentional design.
Like, we just do it this way because we've always done it this way.
It's the veteran employee who knows exactly how to, quote, a complex custom job, but couldn't possibly explain how they arrive at the number.
Because it's all stored in their head.
Exactly.
We've all seen this. You have a warehouse manager who has been there for like 15 years.
Let's call him Dave.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave knows where every single piece of overstock inventory is hidden. He knows which shipping routes get delayed on Thursdays.
Yeah, but nothing is written down.
Nothing. So if Dave gets the flu, the entire shipping department basically grinds to a halt.
And see, to the owner, Dave is a highly valuable asset.
Right. Dave is irreplaceable.
But to the buyer, Dave is a terrifying single point of failure.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If Dave quits the day after the acquisition closes, the buyer just lost the operational capacity of the entire warehouse.
That's terrifying. Which brings us back to what happens when a buyer actually opens the hood of the company during due diligence.
Right. And here we have to dispel a major myth about mergers and acquisitions.
What's that?
Premium buyers aren't looking for perfect, flawless businesses.
They aren't.
No, they know perfection doesn't exist. They are looking for manageable risk.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. I think about it like buying a used house.
Okay, go on.
If a seller hands you an inspection report that clearly details a leaky roof, a deteriorating HVAC system, maybe a cracked window.
You don't just run away?
No, you just price those repairs into your offer.
Yeah.
The risk is documented, visible, and entirely manageable.
Right.
But what you absolutely dread is walking into a house with fresh, wet paint on every single wall, smelling like bleach,
Oh, yeah.
with zero structural history, and a seller swearing that everything is pristine. You know, in your gut, you are waiting for a hidden disaster.
Black mold behind the drywall.
Or a cracked foundation.
Exactly. Visible problems are negotiable. Hidden problems discovered deep into the due diligence process destroy deals instantly.
Because it kills trust.
Completely. If a private equity firm asks to see your profit margins broken down by product line, and it takes you 3 weeks to scramble that data together because your accounting is a mess,
They're going to get suspicious.
their confidence shatters. They don't just think you have an accounting problem. They immediately think, if they can't track their own money, what else is hiding in this operation?
So chaos in due diligence signals chaos post-close.
100%.
They're also looking at the cultural maturity of the company, right? Like, are they evaluating if the team can actually take direction from new ownership?
Absolutely. The psychology of a strategic buyer is deeply tied to growth.
They want to scale.
Right. They rarely buy a company just to maintain its current trajectory. They want to inject capital, optimize operations, and scale it up.
So they need to know the organization is coachable.
Yes. If a new strategy is implemented, will the management layer execute it? Or will they revolt and say, well, the old founder didn't do it that way?
Right. That's not how we do things here.
Exactly. Discipline in daily operations predicts future earnings.
That's a great phrase. Discipline predicts earnings.
If a business operates with intense discipline today, a buyer can confidently project those cash flows 5 years into the future.
Okay, so if that is the buyer's mindset,
Yeah.
how do you actually architect the business to give them that confidence? How do you move from the portable generator to the municipal grid?
Well, the framework breaks this down into 5 structural pillars of an investor-grade company.
Okay, let's go through them. Number 1,
The first, and arguably the foundation for everything else, is documentation.
documentation.
This means the business runs on verifiable systems, not human memory.
Okay, like standard operating procedures, process maps.
Structured onboarding for new hires, everything.
Now, I can hear the collective groan from entrepreneurs everywhere when you say standard operating procedures,
I know.
because the immediate pushback is always about red tape.
Right.
Small businesses pride themselves on agility. They feel like forcing everyone to write down how they answer the phone or process a refund is going to, like, suffocate the company in bureaucracy.
It's a completely understandable fear,
Right.
but it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what good documentation actually does.
Which is what?
Good documentation isn't a bureaucratic straitjacket. It's the tracks the train runs on.
It creates speed.
Yes. Think about what happens when you hire a new employee without documentation.
Oh, it's a nightmare. The owner or a highly paid senior manager has to stop their productive work to manually teach the new hire every single task.
Exactly. They answer the same questions week after week.
How do I log into this? Where's that file?
Right. With rigorous documentation, that new hire can self-guide through 80% of their learning curve.
So the agility you think you are preserving by not having rules
Yeah.
is actually just friction disguised as flexibility.
Exactly the case. And from the buyer's perspective, if they ask for your operating manuals and you point to your own head, they know they are going to have to write the manual themselves.
Which drastically lowers the price they're willing to pay.
Exactly. You're giving them a chore.
But having a manual doesn't matter if nobody has the authority to read it and act on it.
That's true.
Like, you can have all the processes in the world, but if every exception still requires the founder's physical signature, you haven't actually decentralized anything.
No, you've just created extra paperwork.
Which leads directly to the second pillar.
Leadership depth.
Leadership depth. Tell me about that.
The illusion of leadership depth is one of the most common traps founders fall into.
The illusion of it.
Yeah. They will proudly present an organizational chart with themselves at the top and like 5 vice presidents underneath them.
Seems impressive.
Sure. But when you look at the mechanics of how decisions are actually made, those VPs have 0 real authority.
A VP in name only.
Exactly. They get the fancy title, maybe a corner office, but they can't approve a $500 software expense without the founder personally signing off.
Or they can't hire or fire a mid-level employee without the founder's blessing.
Right. They are essentially highly paid executive assistants executing the founder's will.
Wow.
Real leadership depth means the business is not entirely dependent on one person's judgment.
Right. A genuine organizational chart defines actual decision authority.
Yes. It proves that if the founder gets stuck on a deserted island for a month...
Which honestly sounds like a nice vacation.
Right. But if they do, the VP of sales can negotiate and sign a major contract autonomously.
And the director of operations can fire an underperforming vendor without asking permission.
Exactly. Real authority includes the freedom to make mistakes.
But that transition of power requires a level of financial visibility that most founders simply don't possess.
Very true.
Which brings us to the third pillar, financial clarity.
Financial clarity, yes.
And I want to ask for a bit of an ELI 5 here. Explain, like I'm 5.
Okay, let's do it.
The framework specifically demands CPA-prepared, accrual basis financials.
Yes.
Now, most small business owners look at their bank account. If there is cash in the checking account, they assume they are profitable.
Which is cash basis accounting.
Right. So what is a buyer seeing in an accrual statement that a bank balance completely hides?
It's one of the most vital distinctions in corporate finance. Cash basis accounting just records when money physically enters or leaves your bank account.
Okay.
So if you pay an annual insurance premium of, say, $120,000 in January.
Cash basis makes it look like you lost massive amounts of money in January.
Exactly. And then it looks like you ran incredibly profitably for the next 11 months.
Which creates an illusion of wildly lumpy, erratic performance.
Oh, yeah.
And buyers hate erratic performance.
They absolutely despise it. Accrual accounting, on the other hand, matches the revenue and the expenses to the specific time period they actually relate to.
Regardless of when the cash moves.
Exactly. In that insurance example, accrual accounting spreads that $120,000 expense evenly, $10,000 a month, across the entire year.
Oh, I see.
It provides a smooth, accurate, and highly predictable picture of the company's actual operating margins.
So it basically strips away the timing noise and shows the actual economic engine.
Precisely. And it goes beyond just the overall profit and loss statement. Financial clarity means knowing your margins at a granular level.
Like customer acquisition costs.
Yes. Gross margin by specific service lines, everything.
So if a private equity analyst asks, why did your overall profit dip in the third quarter of last year?
And the owner replies, I'm not totally sure. Maybe seasonal slowness.
The analyst here is unquantifiable risk.
Exactly. But if the owner says, our gross margin on product line B compressed due to a temporary spike in raw material costs, which we identified and mitigated by renegotiating a new vendor contract in October.
Wow.
The analyst hears supreme operational control.
That is a huge difference.
Massive.
And this level of control naturally bleeds into the fourth pillar, right?
Operational consistency.
Yes, operational consistency. This is about having an intentional, documented rhythm to the business.
It's the eradication of erratic behavior. Consistency means the quality of the output doesn't wildly fluctuate depending on whether employee A or employee B is working the Tuesday shift.
Right.
It means having weekly accountability meetings that actually result in documented outcomes rather than just, unstructured venting sessions.
It also means rigorous CRM utilization, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If your top salesperson is storing all their client relationship details, birthdays, pain points, all on their personal cell phone.
Then the company doesn't own that relationship.
The salesperson does.
Which is terrifying for a buyer.
Extremely. Operational consistency demands that every interaction is logged centrally so the value stays within the company walls.
Okay, so if you achieve all four of those.
Documentation, leadership depth, financial clarity, and operational consistency.
Right. Then you unlock the fifth and final pillar.
The holy grail of enterprise value, transferability.
The ultimate acid test.
Exactly. Can this entity survive, thrive, and grow after the creator walks out the door for the last time?
Transferability is the definitive characteristic that separates a lifestyle business from an investor-grade asset.
It's the culmination of engineering uncertainty out of the ecosystem.
Okay, so we've painted the picture of the ideal state.
The fully functioning municipal grid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the symptoms that appear when a founder ignores these pillars. Let's look at the deal killers.
Ah, yes. The deal killers.
These are the structural flaws that make highly profitable businesses completely unsellable.
This is often where founders experience the most friction with reality.
How so?
Well, when a company sits on the market for 2 years with no bites, the owner almost always blames the visibility.
They say the right buyer just hasn't found us yet.
We need a better M&A advisor.
Right.
Right. But the harsh reality is that the market is ruthlessly efficient.
So if you're profitable and no one is buying.
The issue isn't visibility. The business itself is structurally flawed.
We've touched on poor documentation and weak leadership as flaws. But there is one deal killer in this framework that genuinely surprised me.
Customer concentration.
Yes. Specifically, having one client that accounts for 40% or more of your overall revenue.
It's a huge issue.
But wait, on the surface, having a massive, loyal whale of a client sounds like the dream.
It seems like it, sure.
You have guaranteed cash flow. It's an anchor account. Why does a buyer view that as a massive red flag?
Because the buyer views that massive client as a contingent liability.
A contingent liability.
Yeah. Let's look at the mechanics of that relationship. In almost every mid-market business, who holds the relationship with the largest client?
The founder, usually.
Right. They've been playing golf together for 15 years.
The relationship is intensely personal.
Exactly. Now imagine the buyer acquires the company, takes on millions of dollars in debt to finance the purchase.
And the founder sails off into retirement.
What is stopping that massive 40% client from saying, well, the founder is gone. I don't know these new private equity folks. I'm going to take my contract to a competitor.
Oh, wow. Nothing is stopping them.
Nothing. And if they leave, the buyer loses 40% of their top line overnight.
But they still have 100% of the debt.
The financial model collapses instantly. It's a ticking time bomb.
Even if the client promises to stay, that level of concentration gives the customer terrifying leverage over the new owner.
Unbelievable leverage. If that single client demands a 20% price cut the day after the acquisition closes.
The new owner is basically forced to agree because losing the account would bankrupt the company.
Exactly. Sophisticated buyers will either heavily discount the valuation to account for that risk.
Or they will structure the deal with severe earnouts.
Right. Meaning the founder doesn't get their full payout at closing.
They only get paid out over the next 3 to 5 years, contingent on that specific client sticking around.
The buyer forces the founder to share the risk.
That makes perfect sense. Another massive deal killer is irreconcilable financials.
Yeah.
The concept that bad bookkeeping doesn't just lower the price, it literally destroys the financing story.
Because this is a mechanical failure in the M&A process.
Right, because when a buyer makes an offer, they rarely use all cash.
Very rarely. They are securing a commercial loan to finance the acquisition.
And the bank providing that loan requires ironclad proof of historical cash flow to justify the debt service coverage ratio.
Precisely. If the seller's financials are a mess, say, if personal expenses like the founder's country club membership or a spouse's car are mingled with business expenses.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. Or if the tax returns don't reconcile with the internal profit and loss statements,
What happens?
the bank's risk department will simply pull the plug.
So the buyer might desperately want to buy your company.
But the bank refuses to fund it because the numbers are an unquantifiable mess.
The deal dies on the operating table, not because the business is bad, but because the accounting is sloppy.
It's tragic, honestly.
So recognizing these massive pitfalls is the first step.
Right.
But how do you actually rebuild the engine while the plane is flying? You can't just flip a switch and instantly possess leadership depth and pristine accrual financials.
No, you can't. The framework provides a phase-based implementation roadmap to operational maturity.
Okay, let's go through the roadmap.
Building an investor-grade company is an act of deliberate architecture. You have to move through specific phases, starting with the highest risk areas.
Phase I,
Phase I is intellectual property externalization.
which is a very academic term for getting the tribal knowledge out of people's heads.
Exactly. It's the process of mapping unwritten knowledge into documented systems.
You don't start by writing an SOP for how to load the break room dishwasher, right?
No. You start with the critical bottlenecks. If only one person in the entire building knows how to calibrate the main manufacturing press, that is your immediate target.
I imagine the psychology of this phase is fascinating.
It is.
You have veteran employees who view their unwritten knowledge as their ultimate job security.
If I write down how I do my job, they won't need me anymore.
Right. How does a founder navigate that?
It requires a massive cultural shift. The founder has to incentivize system building over heroics.
So they have to communicate that the employee's value isn't in turning the wrench, but in designing the manual for turning the wrench.
Beautifully said. The concrete goal of Phase-On is highly measurable. You should be able to teach a core operational function to a brand new hire within 2 weeks, using nothing but the documented systems.
Wow, 2 weeks. Okay, so once you've extracted the knowledge, you move to phase 2.
Phase 2, decision authority and delegation.
Now, this isn't just about handing out tasks. It's about delegating entire operational domains. And this seems like the phase where the founder experiences the most psychological torment.
Oh, it is agonizing for most founders.
Because they have to actually let go.
This is the crossing of the Rubicon from owner-operator to true architect. The founder has to relinquish real control.
You build a decision authority matrix.
Right, which literally plots out who can make what decisions and up to what financial threshold without seeking approval.
So the founder has to sit on their hands. If they see the VP of sales about to slightly bungle a mid-level contract negotiation,
The founder's instinct is to dive in, save the deal, and play the hero.
of course, because it's their money.
But if they dive in, they completely undermine the authority they just delegated.
They train the VP to always wait for the founder to save the day.
Exactly. To build enterprise value, the founder has to let the VP bungle the deal and then use it as a coaching moment to improve the system.
That sounds incredibly hard to do.
It is. But if the founder cannot tolerate short-term mistakes for the sake of long-term structural independence, the company will never reach investor-grade status.
Because the buyer knows that if the founder refuses to let go,
They will have to hire an incredibly expensive CEO just to replace that one individual.
that is a brutal mirror to look into.
It really is.
Okay, once the founder learns to let go, we move into phase 3.
Phase 3, financial discipline and data room assembly.
This is about anticipating the buyer's needs years in advance.
Exactly. The data room is a secure digital repository where all the sensitive, vital documents of a company are stored for due diligence.
And most sellers wait until they receive a formal letter of intent to frantically start building their data room, right?
Always. It becomes a chaotic, stressful scramble, and critical documents always get lost or misrepresented.
The investor-grade mindset says build the data room 3 years before you ever intend to sell.
Yes. Have your corporate formation documents, your 3 years of clean accrual taxes, your key vendor contracts, and your employee agreements all meticulously organized and continually updated.
Think about the massive shift in the power dynamic at the negotiating table.
It's huge. A buyer says, "We are interested, but we'd need to see your historical financials and key contracts."
And if the founder replies 10 minutes later with a secure link to a perfectly organized data room,
The level of confidence that inspires is astronomical. It immediately signals supreme operational maturity.
the framework also highlights the 13-week rolling cash flow forecast in this phase.
Yes, very important.
Why 13 weeks specifically?
Because 13 weeks is one financial quarter. A rolling forecast proves to a buyer that the management team is not just looking in the rearview mirror at past performance.
Wait,
They are actively predicting and managing future cash needs. It shows they understand the velocity of their money, which drastically reduces the buyer's perception of risk.
makes total sense. And finally, phase 4.
Scalability stress testing.
This is where you ask the hardest question of all.
Oh, yeah. Can the business organically grow 25% without requiring any additional time from the founder?
25%.
If top-line revenue grows by 25%, but the founder has to work 25% more hours, skipping weekends, working late nights to manage that growth.
The business is not actually scalable.
No, you are just stretching a rubber band until it snaps.
True scalability means the underlying systems, the middle management layer, and the technology infrastructure can absorb that growth while the founder retains the exact same schedule.
Exactly.
There's a brilliantly simple diagnostic tool mentioned here called the 30-day absence test.
I love this test.
It's so good. I want to address you, the listener, directly for a moment.
Think about your own situation.
Yes, think about your current role, whether you own the company or run a department. Imagine you vanish for 30 days.
Total silence. No email, no cell phone, no Slack messages.
What breaks first? Which client instantly panics? Which vendor invoice doesn't get paid? Which internal conflict paralyzes the team?
Whatever comes to your mind first.
That is exactly where your roadmap to operational maturity needs to begin.
It's brutally effective because it strips away all the vanity metrics and exposes the raw dependencies.
Yeah.
And it underscores the reality that investor-grade status is built intentionally over years. You cannot slap a fresh coat of paint on a founder-dependent company a month before listing it with a broker.
It is a fundamental structural rewiring of